What is going on, Jets fans? This is Owen with Jets Up. I just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about the Aaron Glenn situation. Should he come back or should he be fired? I personally don't really have a problem either way. I can see both sides of the situation. The season has been very bad. We did start off 0-7, and the final 4 games of the season have been pretty bad. Probably as bad as you can get from any team, but especially from what we've seen with the Jets. But I think that there are some caveats that need to be stated that most people aren't really either looking at or choosing to ignore or just don't care about. And then I also want to talk a little bit about some things that I have done some research in, I have noticed, and I have paid attention to this season that gives me some hope that if he does stay, he can work on, improve on, and take with him into the 2026 offseason. So let's start with the caveats of the season and how this season has been bad. As far as it goes, the 0-7 start was pretty bad. Did figure out how to manage the game during that stretch. And they did have close games against some teams that are playoff teams and fighting for playoff spots right now. He had a close game against the Steelers. He had a close game against the Bucks. He also had opportunities to win games against Denver and London and in Carolina as well. I think we all can agree that the Denver and Carolina games did have their fair share of mistakes that were glaring, but I feel like he also made strides in that Carolina game, but really showed the strides of getting better and understanding how to manage a game in the Cincinnati game we won. We do have some blowouts on this schedule that were pretty glaring. Buffalo, and then we had the most recent ones with Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and New England. I will say Buffalo was only week 2, and he didn't really have that team ready to play. But I also think that they were also coming off of a high of a close game against Pittsburgh. So that could be a young coach that doesn't understand how to get his team to come down from that high and isn't prepared for that kind of situation with his players coming out so flat. He did play New England in the first game against New England pretty close, with also having backups in the secondary. But this last game against New England and the game against New Orleans, they were playing guys who are pretty much third stringers on majority of teams, if that. They might not even be on rosters. Jacksonville and Miami are games that I think showed him that the Wilkes experiment wasn't going to work, and he did the right thing and moved forward. He knew that players were being put in bad positions and they were getting frustrated. So I think that that's why he made that decision. I will also say that to any fans that are stating he should have taken over play calling, well, the guy is finally figuring out how to manage a game. I don't think adding play calling to his plate would help him in that development. Finally, on all of this, I think that it is obvious that they are trying to tank. And the blowout losses, while they look bad, with the players that they have, just make sense. When you're rolling out undrafted free agents at crucial positions, this is what's going to happen and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be ugly. But we're trying to get the number 2 overall pick at this point, and this is what it required. Next, I want to focus on some of the good things that Aaron Glenn has done in this season. I don't want to hit on all the negative in this video because, one, there's a lot of negatives. I understand that. And two, the negatives are being pointed out everywhere you look on Jets Twitter, YouTube, wherever you get your Jets information. I think that there are a few good things that you can take into 2026 and say Aaron Glenn has done right. Starting off with, he took a team that led the league in penalties 2 years in a row and turned them into a middle of the pack team under a good amount of playoff teams. I believe Denver, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia are some of the teams that they are under in penalties. So that is a significant improvement, especially when you talk about the last regime not being able to fix those from year 1 to year 2 of that situation. Let's not also forget that there are a lot of holdovers from those teams that were a part of that mess. Another thing I want to say that he did good is he did do a good job of hiring his special teams coordinator. Banjo has been outstanding, has one of the top units in the NFL. And AG doesn't get credit for hiring him, or at least people want to overlook that. He has a guy that also was returning punts for him, and in the Miami game got crucified for catching the ball at the 2-yard line on a fair catch. And AG said, I'm not getting rid of him. All the fans wanted him gone, just like they did with Xavier Gipson, and then they got rid of Xavier Gipson. But you know what? AG brought him back. And Isaiah Williams has been nothing but spectacular since he's been brought back. But AG's not getting credit for that either. Another thing that I want to share is something that Matt O'Leary has pointed out multiple times now on his channel and on the Talking Jets channel. AG should get credit for all the moves that Muji has made. Muji doesn't make these without AG's consent, help, and input. What actually I think happens is Muji and AG talk about players that could help them, talk about players who AG wants, who AG thinks fits his system. Muji throws him some players that could help or are available, or that he's heard are available. And Aaron Glenn picks and chooses and talks it out with his staff and with Muji, and then tells Muji, hey, these are who I want. And Muji goes, okay, let me go see how I can get this done. And then Muji goes and figures out the draft compensation and all that. So AG should get credit for that as well, because AG brought Muji in. Muji wasn't getting this job. They were going to hire the guy from Washington. I can't remember his name, but they were going to hire the guy from Washington as the GM, and AG said, no, I want Darren Muji. Another thing that AG did that was good as well was he brought in a coaching staff on the offensive side that has fixed the offensive line for the most part and has a pretty good unit who's gotten a second-year left tackle to play at a high level, a center that turned into a guard that's playing at a high level, and a rookie right tackle that should have been in the Pro Bowl with how good he's been. That also has led to them doing exactly what AG wanted to do, which was be a run-first team, and now they are a top 10 rushing team. On top of that, they have a 1,000-yard rusher for the first time in, I believe, 10 years almost, if not exactly 10 years. I'm not saying AG's perfect, but AG should get a little bit of credit. There are a bunch of things that AG needs to go into the offseason and look at himself in the mirror and say, I need to get better at this. We need to get better at this. How do I make sure that I get better and this team gets better? And then him and Muji are going to have to go and find guys that fit their system and are going to make this team better than what they are right now. That is going to be the tough job, but they're not going anywhere. And we just have to accept that. Unless Harbaugh or Tomlinson or Mike Tomlin get fired, there's not a guy on the market right now that the Jets are going to fire AG for. Mike McCarthy has not had to build a team from the ground up. He's been given teams that have already had high-end talent, top players, and are playoff contenders with really good quarterbacks that with one of them is one of the best to ever do it, and a guy who has now become a elite quarterback in the league in Dak Prescott. Nagy couldn't get it done in Chicago when he had to build it from the ground up, and if he gets like a Titans job or something like that, I don't think he's going to be successful there. Doug Peterson had one good season where he actually was making Carson Wentz look like an MVP caliber guy, and then got Nick Foles to the Super Bowl and won it because Nick Foles had a crazy one game, but he wasn't able to do it after that. He couldn't get Carson Wentz back to that level, and he couldn't get Trevor Lawrence to get to that level and sustain that. He had one playoff appearance in Jacksonville. And then Cliff Kingsbury, I don't even want to talk about. And that's pretty much the only guys that are available right now that you could say, oh, these would be the hires. One, they would have to want to come here. And two, they're not significant upgrades when you actually look at what they bring. At this point, we just have to ride with AG and wait and see if he can actually fix this. If not, next year we can fire him and find a coach, hopefully in a better crop of coaches. But until then, I'm going to rock with AG. And I know once the dust settles at the end of the season and Black Monday comes and he's not fired, most Jets fans will as well. I appreciate everybody for watching this video. I'm Owen with the Jets Up. Please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.